In this video, we'll demonstrate how to create an autonomous op mode that causes a robot to move until a color sensor detects a blue line. Before watching this video, you should watch Using a Color Sensor, Part 1, Introduction. We've used gaffer's tape to create a red line followed by a blue line. The program will look for hues between 210 and 275 to detect the blue line and ignore the red line. To ensure that it doesn't misinterpret a dark area of the mat as blue, we'll also have it require a saturation value of greater than 0.6. We'll mount a modern robotics color sensor close to the surface and connect it to an I2C port on the device interface module. Before creating the op mode, we need to inform the robot controller that it has two motors and a color sensor available. Use the information shown here to create and activate a config file. If you're not familiar with setting up a config file, see the video at the address shown. Here we have an autonomous op mode called Stop on Blue. So far, we've added blocks that set the power level of a pair of motors to 30% to cause the robot to move forward. We'll add blocks that cause the robot to stop once it reaches a blue line after ignoring the red line. First, we'll turn on the LED of the light sensor using an Enable LED block. This block should be enough to turn on the sensor's LED, but to make sure it works, we'll insert two additional blocks above it that turn the LED off and wait a half second before the block that turns it on. We'll use the loop block to allow us to constantly monitor the color sensor. Because it checks op mode is active, it will stop looping when the 30-second autonomous period is over or stop is selected on the driver station. In order to check the color, we need to convert the red, blue, and green values from the color sensor to hue and saturation. To do this, we'll create a variable called current color. Then we'll drag a set current color block from the variables folder into the while loop. Then select utilities color and plug a color RGB to color block into the set current color block. Now we need to plug the color sensor's red, green, and blue values into the RGB to color. Select the color sensor and drag the red, green, and blue blocks into their respective places. Now we can use our current color variable to check for the blue line. Drag an if-do block into the loop. Inside of the if-do block, we need to check for both the color's hue and saturation. Select logic and drag an AND block into the if block. First, we'll check the saturation. To ensure that we're getting a good color value, we need to make sure the saturation value is 0.6 or greater. Click logic and drag a comparison block into the left side of the AND block. Select color and drag a color saturation block into the left side of the comparison. From the variables folder, select a current color block and plug it into the color socket of the saturation block to get the current saturation level. Change the comparison from equals to greater than or equal. Select math and drag a number block into the right side of the comparison and set it to 0.6. Now on the right side of the AND operator, we'll look for blue by checking for a hue value that is greater than 210 but less than 275. Plug another AND block into the right side of the current AND block. On the left side of the new AND block, create a comparison block that checks to see if the color hue level is greater than 210. We'll use duplicate to create an additional comparison, this time checking if the hue level is less than 275. When all these conditions become true, we want the robot to stop. So inside the do block, we set the power level of both motors to 0 and turn the LED off. Now we'll save and run the op mode to see if the robot runs forward and stops on the blue line. It does. We're done.